All right, everyone. It is EDU Diva, also known as Dr. J, and we're going to get started with the Belle Collective Season 6, Episode 3. So it basically starts off with Latrice. She's walking into Tay. She's talking to everybody saying hey, and then she gets on FaceTime with Selena. And Selena is basically talking about she's sorry she's not going to be able to make it to the event that they have, and that her daughter is getting ready to have her baby. You guys know, I believe it's Sky that is having the baby. So they're in the midst of her going into labor and everything. So she's going to unfortunately be unable to attend the girls' event that Latrice has set up for the night. Now, Marie Monroe then walks in, and Selena's like all happy on the FaceTime saying, I'm happy to see that you guys are doing good and being able to be in each other's company without any discord, because again, we know that they've had so many issues from the very, very first beginning of the Belle Collective starting its season or its series. And Marie says she's basically been loving on Cedric, and that's why she's happy. And Latrice says her and Marie and Cedric's relationship is very, very weird. She says she's glad that Cedric has stepped up. And she's saying that basically in the confessional, because she's not saying this to her face. It's going to be interesting to see how this pans out, as everybody kind of looks at the shows kind of one by one and watches it and sees what everybody's saying in the confessionals. And we'll see how this kind of leads into the reunion, because we know that a lot of people talk a good game in terms of in front of each other, and then when they get behind closed doors, they want to say the opposite. And not saying that Latrice said anything crazy or really, really bad, but Marie Monroe, she's real quick with those comebacks. So hopefully her and Latrice can maintain those relationships that they have and kind of go from there. Now, one of the things that happens after that is Amanda actually walks in. And I've heard some other content creators saying, something's a little bit off about Amanda. And I have to definitely agree. She's not my cup of tea. She seems like she's on the show, obviously, for a reason. And then that makes me side-eye Latrice when it comes to that, because all the stuff that happens in the episode prior to this episode, but also within this episode and going into next week. So that's definitely something that we need to keep our eye on as it pertains to Miss Amanda, because just her vibe is completely off. But we'll talk about that a little bit later on. After that happens, what's really, really funny is that when Amanda does walk in, Marie is like I said, she's quick with the comeback. She makes the comment that Amanda walks in and she looks like Beetlejuice because she had on this black and white outfit. And I was like, okay, it is reminiscent of Beetlejuice a little bit, so that was really, really funny, which kind of makes me kind of giggle even more, because Marie, her outfit was talked about on the last episode with Carrie, but now she's, has a comment about Amanda. So, it's like y'all all have hit and misses. You all have hit and misses sometimes, and we all do sometimes. Everybody's outfit is not everyone's cup of tea, but, to each its own. Now, after that happens, Amanda's basically making a comment to Marie that she doesn't like how they treated Latrice, in the past seasons, on the past reunions, when they were basically, her and Letitia were getting ready to fight Latrice. And so she basically lets that be known. So I do appreciate her kind of keeping it real, up front, and her making that statement to her. Now, Latrice does say that Letitia is her big sister. She does have love for her, and she's happy that, that they're at the place that they are right now. But she does feel like she's in the middle of the situation of knowing that Amanda has this info about Glenn, running up in her DMs. So, which kind of still makes me, like I said, keep my good eye on Latrice, because I'm like, if you know this information, me as a person, the first thing that I would do, I would honestly tell my friend, especially if I know that we weren't on the best of terms, prior to now. I would definitely sit down and have that conversation. Hey, this does not have anything to do with me. Although Amanda is my friend, she gave me this info, but I don't want you finding out, through third-party information. I want you to hear it directly from me. Now, you can go and have that conversation with the man and take it from there. That's basically how I would be, because I never want anything to fall on me as if I was in the wrong, especially with someone that I do consider my friend. Now, Latrice basically invites them to her couple's pool party. She makes a mention with Tambra because Tambra is really not on the show. Now Tambra is also my sorority sister too, but Tambra is someone that's not really, doesn't really have a storyline going on, and she says she's not going to invite Tambra because she doesn't know if Tambra's going to have, I guess her boyfriend, I forgot what his name is off the top of my head, have him watch the baby, or she's gonna need to do something with the baby or with her man. She's not gonna have it within her schedule. Basically, that's what she's trying to say. Now, Amanda does say that she is open to dating a man because they talk about that kind of at the end. So that's interesting. And then we segue into Letitia checking in with Glenn as she's headed to a dance class with Carrie. Now they start showing the Mississippi Gulf Coast, which I think is wonderful. You get to see the water tank of Gulfport, Mississippi, which is where I'm from, and you get to see some just visions of the Mississippi Gulf Coast, which I think is really, really nice. And so Letitia's coming into the dance class, and she's on the phone with Glenn, basically saying that she's checking in with Glenn now that he has, that they're at a great spot now, and they've been doing very well, and he has the flexibility with the schedule. She's able to check in with him as needed and they can keep up with each other during the day. So I thought that was interesting. And then as she comes in, she starts talking to Carrie, and Carrie talks about how she invited Dr. Marie Monroe, and Letitia was kind of like, oh, really? She was like, yeah, I thought it would be a good thing for me to invite her, just so we can get to know each other basically a little bit more. And Carrie makes a point that she's in her Michelle Obama bag, basically trying to say, when they go low, I go high. I guess that's what she was trying to say. But she, made it be known that, she's trying to open herself up to being friendly to Marie. And then Maurice comes in. She says, even though in a confessional, even though Carrie shaded her, she says she still likes her because she feels like Carrie is a firecracker. So I thought that was good. Marie said that when she first met Carrie, she was all up in her business, and now she wants to get into her business. So, Marie is known for that. You know what happened with Tambra? Marie and Letitia got together and tried to get all this info with Tambra with this issue she had with this ex that she had a protective order against. So, you got to definitely stay on Marie Monroe's good side. And Carrie basically makes the comment that she's trying to juggle, just her whole lifestyle, everything that she does, being an entrepreneur that she is, and that she did point out that she's not doting. Now, I will tell you that like I said, with me being acquaintances of Carrie, and I guess you could say probably 10 years ago, we were always hanging around each other in the sense of there were events that were going on. My best friend and we were always kind of running within the same circle. So when I would go back from Atlanta, which is where I am, and I would go back home to Gulfport, Mississippi, and, go to different events, different types of things that were happening, we were always within the same circle. So we were around each other. We've hung out, one-on-one, two-on-one, three-on-one. And I know Carrie is one of those people. She's all about, making sure that others feel like her presence. And what I mean by that, she's, outgoing. She's the life of the party. She's like one of those people. So her focus is on, making sure that things are the way that they need to be in terms of how things are presented. And I can definitely see when she says she's not doting, she does not look like you're going to chase after her. She's not going to chase after you, basically. Let me just say that. And I can see her saying that, and I'm not saying towards her kids or anything like that. What I'm saying is I can see in relationships, whether it be, her husband or even friendship, she's one of those people that she's just, you're attracted to her energy. And so it's really usually not the opposite in the sense of she's chasing after other people. So I can see her saying that. And she says she loves powerful women. And who doesn't like powerful women? You want to be around people who are like-minded, who have the strength to get things done. That's the type of, vibe you want to be around. And that's how I am too. I'm one of those people. I like to, me being in education, and me even getting my doctorate and being around other Black women who are successful and have their education, have their doctorate or any other type of education, being able to do things that you come together community wise to, make sure that your community is excelling in certain ways. That's my focus. And so they have their little, exercising moment, and so that's good. And then we see in the next scene that at Brick and Spoon, Carrie starts talking about coming in, talking to everybody. One of her, I guess her manager starts saying, get out the way, basically move out the way. I got this. And obviously it's a well-oiled machine in her restaurant. I believe that that's the Biloxi, no, yeah, the Gulfport one that she came in and filmed at for that scene. She has one in Biloxi, Gulfport, and then the new one she's talking about is in Mobile, Alabama. And I've been to both the Biloxi and the Gulfport locations. And so it really was nice in terms of, the decor, the atmosphere. The food is excellent. I've been there a few times and it has never disappointed me. Now she talks about how, just it's a lot running 3 restaurants, and that she's always been in the hospitality field. And what they're focused on now is getting the Mobile, Alabama location up and running with the grand opening. And so she ends up calling her business partner and talking about how her business partner is a boss and she's great, and how, they got everything kind of set up how they need it to be for the grand opening for Mobile. And her husband walks in. And her husband is Matt Paul, as we already know. And they sit down and start talking about, well, they give kind of like a background story on them, how they've been together since they were 15. They met each other at the mall. They have the 3 kids, as we know, a set of twins and another daughter that came a year after them. And then they talk about how he's been in the sports arena. He played baseball. He's been in it for over 20 years. And Carrie says, I need to check in with you. I need to check in with my husband. Goes back to the scene of them sitting down. And basically, Matt says he expects a little bit more effort. And Carrie starts tearing up, and she starts saying it's hard. I want to do these things because these are things that I enjoy, but basically it's hard for me to be everywhere at once and still be successful. That's basically what she was trying to say. And she said keeping the balance can be hard. But Carrie says that her husband is a sweetheart, and I can tell you just from the times that I've been around Matt, in terms of events that we've been to and met him, he's always he seems like he's the quiet storm, kind of like how my husband is, very quiet, but you can tell that their presence is there. He's definitely cognizant of his wife and things going on around him. So they have always seemed like they've been a great match. So I'm glad to see that they are having those conversations. And I think one thing that I've seen in some clips with Carrie is that she is mentioning communication as a thing between them, that she wants to make sure that it increases, that it continues to be a smooth communication process with them. Then we see Letitia come into a spot. It looks like it's some loft type area. She's meeting up basically with Selena and Mike, and Glenn is going to meet her there. And one thing that I saw that some of the other content creators were saying was that Glenn can never get anywhere on time, but she says that, Glenn is on his way. She's there with Tyrone, who is like, I think he's like a sports coach or something like that, but he's worked, I guess, with her and Glenn and doing like activities, exercises to help them communicate. And that's the purpose of her meeting up with Selena and Mike. And so basically Tyrone is going to start the process, and Letitia and Glenn are going to then, work with them on everything else as Tyrone is leaving. And, Letitia says she's never said that they were perfect, but she talks about how Glenn is acting, and being all lovey-dovey, not lovey-dovey, excuse me. When he comes in, he's being all lovey-dovey with Letitia and everything like that. So, it's making it seem, we're watching it. Oh, Glenn is doing the right things. He's doing everything. But we know that there's something else brewing in the atmosphere for them. So we definitely have to take that into consideration as we go on with the episode. So they do like a blindfold activity, and Selena is pouring her heart out to Mike and telling him basically, like, when you don't communicate with me, when you don't tell me where you are, what you're doing, that's like a trigger for me, because what happened to her son. And she said basically her son was on his way back from, I think she said somewhere, I forgot where she said he was coming from, but coming somewhere. He was literally on his way back, and he died, in the midst of getting back to Jackson. And so that's a trigger for her, which I can definitely understand. And I don't think it's anything unwarranted. Who would not want to know where their significant other is? If I text you, everybody has their phone on them. Why are you not texting back? Like, that's irritating. You can text and do everything else. So why are you not communicating with me and letting me know where you are? So I think that that's a valid, piece for her to say to him, that he should be able to oblige. Like, come on now, answer your girl back, unless you're doing something you ain't supposed to be doing. Okay. So they're doing like the activity, getting the ball in the cup and all that stuff. So they get through all that. So after that, it's really attachment concerns and issues that Selena has right now. So we move on to the white party. This is the white party that Selena is having to celebrate her son, and to kind of give just I guess you could say, give respect to the fact that, people are going through grief, and let them let them be heard, and understand how to unlock the grief and use it in a way that it doesn't weigh you down. And so at the white party, everybody's looking nice. Everybody's coming in. We see Selena talk about the panel that she put together, and Latrice is actually going to be on the panel. She's going to be talking about some of the grief that she's had and the people that she's lost. And Marie comes in. Everybody's coming in. Marie comes in flashing her ring, and they basically like, you got the ring right there. And she's basically like, yeah, I put it on the marriage finger, when we get there. So that was interesting. And then Latrice comes in, and then of course Glenn is late as usual. Letitia's already there, and Latrice makes a comment like how she feels uncomfortable, basically knowing what she knows about the Amanda situation. So it's kind of like, girl, that conversation should have already been had. I can't say it enough. It should have already been had. So basically what ends up happening is they get on the panel. Selena says she lost 2 mothers and her son. Of course, what really kind of extremely broke her heart was her losing her son, Quincy Johnson. And she says she doesn't talk much about grief, but she knows she needs to. And many of the people on the panel start discussing the grief. And Latrice talks about how she came from a broken family. Her first brother was killed in Jackson. And then her second brother, who she was the closest with, she said she ended up having a dream that he passed. And then she called him and was like, hey, bro, I had a dream that you passed. She's like, no, don't be stressing about that, sis. I'm here. And she said literally that same day he passed. Sometimes your dreams are the truth to the soul. And, I hate that happened, because, I know it was so much pain for her. And you could see everybody in the audience basically, tearing up, crying. And you had Carrie, who mentioned that, she didn't realize, that it would bring up, kind of pain for her, because Matt just had just recently lost his father. And then you see Cliff in the audience kind of, you could see him actually kind of tearing up. He talks about he didn't realize, maybe this is the reason why Latrice is the way she is about me not coming home, from the club, being in that sweet above taste. So maybe that's the reason why she is. So I got to be a little bit more understanding. I'm like, you should have been more understanding before then. Like, that's your wife. Why are you staying over the night in a facility? You need to have your butt here in the bed with me. So anyways, Latrice basically gets choked up in that conversation, which is understandable. And they basically end that scene with them kind of going outside and releasing balloons. They're writing on the balloons things that they want to release to the people that they love that have passed away. And then they go out and release the balloons. And I thought that was a really great scene. Selena is just really, to me, she is just the epitome of, a beautiful woman, in the sense of her being able to express herself so sincerely with people in relationships and conversations. And then, of course, she's a beautiful woman. I mean, just top beauty, just can't take that away from her. Overall, I think she just has it together. And I think that any man would be great to have her, because she just seems like she just has such a great spirit about herself. And I think that she is wonderful in the way that she carries herself, and the way that she sincerely can understand feelings of other people. So I wish her the best as it pertains to her being able to be at peace with everything that happened with with her son. And I hope everything works out with her and Mike. Mike better step his game up. That's all I got to say. Now we get to the interesting part. This is where we get to the pool party, okay? And with the pool party, this is where they show the house, and Latrice, they've shown her house before, but she just really has a beautiful, beautiful house. And I hate the way that one real estate agent tried to say, that there's really not any fabulous homes in, Mississippi. There are plenty, but you just got to know where to go. You got to know where to build and all those types of things. I mean, that's usually anywhere, but I know it's not known that you don't think of Hollywood when you think of Jackson, of course, in terms of the homes and how they're styled and everything. But she has a beautiful, beautiful home. Now at the pool party, everything's being set up. You see the scenes of everything getting set up, the food and everything looking great. And then what ends up happening is Carrie shows up. She shows up with her husband, and she basically talks about how you got to dress to impress. Her mom talks about you got to dress to impress, and any outfit that you wear has to be appropriate for where you're going. And then everybody starts showing up. Of course, Selena shows up. She gives props to Selena because Selena just looks good no matter where she goes and what she wears. She just really has, like I said, it all put together. And then you see Amanda show up, and Amanda shows up with this young lady who I believe is a stud, and she introduces herself, and then Marie comes, and Marie has her outfit on. Marie just be doing it with that body be bow bow bow. And what ends up happening is Marie ends up seeing the lady that Amanda brought, and she's like, that's her cousin. She's like, and basically find out who she with. Oh, I'm here with Amanda. She's like, oh, I didn't know that. So she's like, this is interesting, right? Small world. It's a small world everywhere. It's a small world in Jackson, Mississippi Gulf Coast, even in Atlanta sometimes. Because once you start doing kind of the same type of things in terms of, events that you go to, the same type of hobbies or anything like that, everybody runs into the same circle, okay? So you end up seeing people all the time. You can't be caught doing wrong because it's going to catch up with you. Now, while they're there, Essie shows up, of course, with her husband, and Marie's basically like, look, that's her husband. My man is over there. This is her husband. Essie's husband is actually cute. So that was funny because, they used to say that, are Marie and Essie together? And, they, you could just tell that they just really, really have a strong friendship, a strong bond. They will go to bat for each other like no other. But it was good seeing Essie come there with her husband. And then they talk about, well, Amanda ends up hugging Letitia when Letitia comes in there. So that's interesting. And then Glenn hugs Amanda. So I'm just like, y'all just all messy because people be doing stuff all up in your face. And you just be like, sometimes, and that's the reason why, let me just say this, even though the man is completely 100% at fault, those are the reasons why sometimes women attack the other woman. And not saying that Amanda is the other woman, because it doesn't seem like she acted on the DMs that were sent, but because of the messiness that you strive for when it comes to the situation, okay? Because that just messy. All of them messy in terms of Glenn and her. Now, they end up sitting down on the inside and start doing this game. And, this is a game that Latrice design. So that this is a conversation. Let me just preface that should have already been had with Letitia, because Letitia was blindsided. So they start talking about the craziest places people have had sex. Everybody's talking about it. What killed me was the part when Matt and Carrie, when it came to Matt and Carrie, and Matt said in her parents' bedroom, and I know how her parents are, in the sense of seeing them kind of on her. Even I've seen them before, in person, but seeing them kind of on her Instagram page and all that, within the way that their personalities, and so I know they're gonna have something crazy to say. It's gonna be interesting to see if she makes a video about what they said if they watched that part, but saying they did it in her parents' bed. I was like, okay. And so Carrie falls out like, I'm sorry, mom and daddy, So that was funny. And then they talk about the best position, and they all are listing all that. And then have you ever been attracted to somebody in the group? So this is like the question. And Carrie's like, okay, everybody on 1, 2, 3 say no. And so everybody kind of says no, and then Amanda says, oh, you are basically attracted to someone in the group. That's a lie. She said, that's a lie, Glenn. Basically, and he was like, what? And he's looking, and Letitia's like looking, and he's like, basically, I'm not attracted to anybody but my wife. And Letitia is like blindsided. She's like, hey, wait a minute. We need to talk about this. What's going on? We ain't gonna just slide past this, because they try to act like they're going to the next question, because everybody was like, whoa. Except, Latrice knew what was going on. Amanda, of course, knew what was going on. And so Letitia takes her to the side, basically, and says, is there something that you need to let me know? And then Amanda starts going on about how I don't like the way you did my friend Latrice. And I would be like this too. I'm like, excuse me, miss? Excuse me, ma'am? I'm being polite with kind of what I'm saying. But excuse me, miss, we got something to handle what you just said, basically. And that's what Letitia was basically saying. We need to handle this. Is there something you need to let me know? I thought you and I were cool. And so I need to know what's going on, what you're basically saying. And then you kind of hear something going on in the background. And And all hell is breaking loose basically, because you see in the other room where they were, the young lady, the cousin to Marie, that was brought there with Amanda, started saying, "Oh, I seen the DMs. I've seen them. I'm just letting you know that I did see him," basically. And Glenn is trying to act like he don't know what's going on. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? And then Marie comes in there to Letitia, because it was ruckus and there's a whole bunch of, loudness going on. And she's like, "You need to come get Glenn. You need to come get Glenn." I'm like, here we go. Latrice, you're going to be caught up in the mess because you knew about all this. And then I saw like an article, because after this, basically the scene cuts to black and you see "to be continued," and you basically see the scenes coming up, I guess, for next week and maybe future episodes. And you can just see that Letitia is just going through it. And I feel so bad. I feel bad for her, because it's like when you give somebody a chance after chance after chance. And obviously he did do something. I mean, it seems like it is factual just from all the evidence that we have. It just kills me that you try to give somebody a chance and a chance again, because Glenn is all she knows. It's all she knows. She has not had it. I don't know if she's ever dated anybody even temporarily outside of him, but they've been together since high school. She's going to keep on going back if that's all she knows, until somebody maybe pops out and can provide, showcase to her how a man should really treat a woman. But it's really, really sad, Glenn playing in her face like this. And she needs to pull a Marie Monroe, basically, some way, somehow. Like, how Marie was like, left Cedric and, let him, handle your roots or whatever you want to call it. And then, find your way back when you know how to treat me right. Something needs to give, because this is just unacceptable. There should not be another woman. I don't like the way Amanda is acting. I don't know the lady like that, but I don't like the way you're moving. You're moving real slick. And I don't think that that's right. What's the reason for her truly being on the show unless she's there to mess with Letitia? And even though Letitia has done her own fair share of things too, to me, it's just not right. You put stuff out in the atmosphere that's negative, you're going to get that back in return. And so she's going to end up getting something negative back in return, playing with people like this. Because you shouldn't just live your life, wake up that day wanting to purposely mess up somebody's life. It'd be one thing if you went to Letitia in private and said, "Let me have a conversation with you. Can I have a sit down with you and Latrice, since Latrice is technically her friend, and just let you know what happened." And if you came that way in peace, that would be different. But the way you did everything was being messy. So that's all I got to say. This is the review on season 6, episode 3, Belle Collective. I hope you guys like, comment, share. Please start commenting and sharing. I want to definitely start increasing my followers and doing more shows, on various topics, but definitely still do the reality shows that I love. And I hope you guys enjoy, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.